the Marvel Comics panel. For those of you who haven't heard of Marvel Comics, they basically own the world now. With me, we'll go with Beauty Before Age, and I'll introduce Alan Bellman. Alan was a Marvel Comics artist back before they were really Marvel Comics, when they were Timely Comics. He drew Captain America. He drew, what was the name of your detective feature that was so cool? Let's Play Detective, and the politically incorrect, but not at the time, Jack Buster Johnson. Again, and then next to my right, although I don't believe politically, Gerry Conway, who was the boy wonder of the Marvel bullpen of Marvel Comics when I got there in 1972. Gerry wrote everything. He murdered Gwen Stacy, but besides that, he did lots of really good stuff. I mean, you are right, Daredevil, Submariner, Iron Man. I mean, basically, it was a Marvel comic. Gerry wrote it at one time or another. Me too, but I do it for an issue or two. He'd do it for years. And then finally, we have Ron Frenz, who's the youngster of the crowd here. And Ron has drawn just about every part. Spider-Man, Thor, Thunderstrike. I'm probably leaving a bunch out. But my favorite work of his is when he worked with Tom Montalvo on Spider-Girl, which was a great alternate universe take on Spider-Man, Spider-Man's daughter, the daughter of Peter Parker and Mary Jane. I'm going to let everybody talk while I sit back, and then I'll talk for a little while, and then we'll take your questions. So, who wants the mic first? Why don't we start? Okay, let's start with questions. Do you have questions? Okay, well, I'll start. Gerry, you used to room with Len Wein. Who was Felix and who was Oscar?
I think we were both Felix, at least in our OCD-ishness. But I think we were both Oscar in our cleanliness habits. Remember that Lynn was engaged at the time, and I thought it was actually a fairly neat person. And his girlfriend came over for some reason and was like, please, someone get a fumigator and clean this place out. We actually roomed for about a year, and at various points when Lynn would, or I would get behind on stories, we would round robin issues of each other's books, where I would write a page and he'd write a page and I'd write a page. And I defy you to figure out which of our books we did that with. So that's my Lynn Wein story.
Yeah. Just to add to that, having had to imitate various writers over the course of my career, it is so much easier to imitate a writer who has a distinctive style like Len or Gerry than just a run-of-the-mill guy. Just throw that out for you. Questions? We'll start with you.
Thank you very much. I was introduced to Marvel in the early 80s. That was my Marvel, and most of you guys were writing stuff in that period. And it always marvels me, no pun intended, that reading about that area of Marvel now and how chaotic it was behind the scenes, the editorial. I think just recently I read Christopher Priestley did a blog talking about how crazy the Spider-Man editorial was and how he caused a lot of those problems. And how hard was it to balance out that craziness and still put out quality work? I mean, was that a ever-going struggle, or did you push it?
It was first established. Did you think it was quality work?
Oh, absolutely.
Now that we've established that as a base, we can go from there. Anybody want to address the 80s? I don't need a microphone.
Okay. I can address the 70s. I mean, we weren't getting paid a lot, but we loved doing comics. We had, the writers at least had a great deal of freedom. So we just tried to do the best jobs we could while fighting the deadlines and everything.
Why don't we go back to the beginning?
That's right, because Alan, you worked for Marvel, and it was an actual bullpen. I mean, it was rooms full of artists and such. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. There was a bullpen, okay, and first I'd like to say my name is Bellman, I'm an alcoholic. Oh, wrong meeting. No, I go way back before Stanley became editor. And I remember walking in, I was hired by Don Rico, and they said you start Monday, and I came in Monday, and I was introduced to the staff. Vince Alacia was inking Sid Shore's penciling of Captain America, who took over after Kirby and Simon left. And it seemed like Don Rico was doing the Young Allies. There was some kind of feud going on, so it was two camps. Don Rico's band of guys and Stan wasn't even there yet. And Sid Shore's and Vince Alacia was on one side. I kind of favored the underdog, you know, but I had to keep my mouth shut. But it was a wonderful experience working for Marvel, and I remember when Stan was not there, and then when he came back, he had an uncle called Robbie Solomon, who was a brother-in-law to Martin Goodman. Nobody knew what Robbie Solomon's job was except being a spy for Martin Goodman. But one thing, I remember him breaking in Stan, you know, little kid Stan. I was 18, he was 19. I was this yay big, Stan was this big. And he walked behind Uncle Robbie, and Uncle Robbie was a tyrant, may rest in peace. He picked on everybody. Draw like Blue Flying, draw on a Microboy, draw like this guy. We were out selling DC Comics. But we do, but he had to be a little Napoleon, this guy, and really agitated everybody. But Stanley followed him around, and suddenly he died at an early age, Robbie Solomon, and Stanley never really followed anybody else in anybody else's footsteps. So, not wanting to hog this microphone, I'd like to pass it on to this gentleman here.
We'll give back to the moderator. As far as the 80s, Jim Owsley was the most chaotic thing about Marvel in the 80s. Everything else was moving pretty smoothly. You were writing spectacular at the time.
Yeah, I was writing.
Were you in the office that often, or were you on the West Coast?
I was on the West Coast.
I mean, I was in Pittsburgh, so everything was going smoothly with Danny Fingeroth and smoothly with other editors. But Jim Owsley, God love him, Christopher Priest, whatever he's been called now, came in like an atom bomb, and I think he was, you know, he admits on his I had to go read his blog because everybody told me about it. He came in like an atom bomb because I think he was overwhelmed. He really was too young to be given that kind of responsibility. And the reason he was given the responsibility is because the writers on the other Spider-Man books, Al Milgrom, Louise Jones, Tom DeFalco, were all either editors or ex-editors. So Jim Shooter thought at the time that, well, this will be a great learning experience for him. This will be a great training ground for him. Unfortunately, that's not how Jim approached it. That's not how Jim Owsley approached it. And like the first thing he did was fire Louise and fire Al Milgrom, and the chaos kind of started from there. He had a very personal idea of what the book should be, and they didn't match what was being done at the time. So yes, that part of it was very chaotic, and I was getting phone calls, and ultimately it ended up with Falcon and I being fired off of Amazing, and nobody really taking any responsibility for it, and all this craziness. But it really wasn't company-wide at the time. It was kind of centered on anything coming out of Jim Owsley's office. And I think most of the company was up and running pretty smoothly at that point.
Well, I came back to Marvel, I think around 85, 86.
It was after Owsley was gone.
Yeah, it was probably that.
Yeah, you were working for Salicrup.
Yeah.
Jim Salicrup wrote Spider-Man books after Jim.
Very sane.
I don't know, with all these young guys, you ever feel like a brown shoe and the whole world's a tuxedo?